so very much for inviting me to speak to you tonight. When Marco called me, my family and I were actually just getting off a plane. My parents flew in from Florida, my sister from LA, another sister from New York. I had said no to everything during the time they were here, but I couldn't say no to your request because the topic is something that I think is extremely important. And I am so thrilled to see all of you and your company focused on it. It's wonderful. I couldn't say no. Thank you to each of you and to the management, to MSD, for caring about success, yes, but ethics and values, and for asking me to put my thoughts together on that for you tonight. I know you can do both, but it's not easy to be both successful and ethical in our country today. That's a reality. Corruption is endemic. It infiltrates so many aspects of our lives. Influence peddling is the name of the game. Conflicts of interest all over the place. I've found so many Filipino organizations have a difficult time even defining what conflict of interest means. It's too easy to rationalize, particularly when it means more money or influence. Sometimes the wrong thing seems to be the only way to get ahead. I've heard so many Filipinos say that, particularly those street-savvy operators who are trying to get you to do the wrong thing. You have to find the courage to say no. You have to do what's right, not just for your company, but for yourself. You have to find and set this line, a line that you promise yourself you will never cross. Because crossing that line means that you're turning from good to evil. It's that simple. And you must make it that simple. Why? This insight came from a dinner I had just Tuesday night with an accomplished, incredible group of 5 women. They're fellow awardees from towns, 10 outstanding women in the nation's service. All 5 of them are doctors, 2 medical doctors, 3 of them PhDs. Everyone at the table was a teacher, and everyone had chosen to leave a Western nation. 3 of them had lived in the US, 1 11 years in Australia, another one 5 years in London. All of them chose to leave to come home, to come back to the Philippines. This group, we try to get together at least once a year to support each other in our work and to give each other feedback from our different fields. Our topic Tuesday was corruption and how we choose to fight it in our society. One woman said she was tired and needed to pull back, losing her idealism. Another talked about how people who try to do the right thing seem to have to work so hard all the time and to get paid so little. Still a third said she was surprised at how good people can turn evil, how people she knew from college are now so corrupt, and yet they don't seem to understand nor even feel that they're doing anything wrong. Now, that was the insight. Corrupt people don't think they're corrupt, just like evil people don't think they're evil. How do you get there? Well, getting there starts with just one small step across a line. Once you take the first step and cross over, the succeeding steps become much easier, and before you know it, you're not just corrupt, but you're now corrupting others. This, for me, is like a reverse tipping point. You know the book by Malcolm Gladwell? The subtitle to the tipping point is How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference. The idea is that it's the little steps that begin the change that simmers just beneath the surface until the system hits critical mass. Call it the boiling point. That's when dramatic change, that's when you can change the entire system. Well, when did we become endemically corrupt as a nation? It's the point when enough people, enough Filipinos, took enough small steps to make it that way. We have to change it. How do we do that? Well, by understanding how we got here. It starts with each person making a choice. Draw the line in the sand and do not cross it. The most dangerous decision is that first one, when you move from being perfectly clean and idealistic to being tempted, to wanting it, and then accepting it. Don't do it. Once you do, it's a slippery slope. Define that line and do not cross it. I hope I spent an hour or so with your management over dinner, so I hope that if any of you have done it, that, well, I was going to tell you to come up and talk to me afterwards, but I now know you can't. So you can, I hope you haven't done it, and I am just thrilled tonight. My good spot, my good news for the night is actually hearing about what you're doing. As a journalist, media corruption is a fact of life. Politicians, company officers, government officials have said that they're flabbergasted by the number of journalists on their payrolls. I ask, well, why don't you just stop paying and expose these journalists? They say they can't because they're afraid if they don't pay, they would be attacked. It's so prevalent, the radio guys coined a term for it. You guys have heard the term ACDC? ACDC, attack, collect, defend, collect. Of course, paying works in the favor of the newsmakers. If the newsmakers pay, then they control the story. They can even write the story. They know what's written or said about them. They know when it will come out, and they know the type of exposure and the PR they can have. That certainty for them is worth paying journalists. So that's a cycle. It feeds on itself. So many of you are young in this room. Young journalists say no to this because they're idealistic. But after a while, they start to see the way things really work. They begin to get disillusioned. The lines begin to blur together, particularly since so many of their elders, the more experienced ones, are doing it. Then the real test comes, the offer that's hard to refuse. Everyone gets that. If you pass that test, chances are you'll stay clean for the rest of your professional life. It's a tipping point in a positive way. You've already said no to the hardest offer to decline, the one you wanted the most, so everything is easy. But the tipping point works the other way if you choose to accept it. It starts with envelopes of money and press conferences. When I was with Probe, I thought, let's make it easier for the newsmakers and publicly state our position against what we called envelopmental journalism. So we did. At the end of every program in Probe, we said we support the fight against envelopmental journalism. Like Dr. Pingoy, though, strangely, other journalists, our colleagues, were critical of us for taking that position. During that time, it seemed to me that the clean journalists were the ones who were ostracized and the ones who were cowed into silence. We didn't trumpet our beliefs because